Have you ever watched a magician perform a trick so flawlessly, so hypnotically beautiful, that the applause was already erupting from your chest before your rational mind even had the chance to ask where the rabbit actually came from? Because that is precisely what is happening right now across every NFL media platform carrying this Jalen Ramsey to San Francisco rumor. And if you do not have your salary cap spreadsheets open and your analytical defense is fully activated, you are about to become the latest victim of one of the most seductive financial illusions this offseason has manufactured. The maximum alert sirens are screaming inside our war room, and today we are conducting the most forensic, uncompromising audit this platform has ever witnessed. We are dissecting the proposed trade, sending Jalen Ramsey from the Pittsburgh Steelers to the San Francisco 49ers, and we are going to expose with surgical precision exactly why the beautiful, nostalgic packaging wrapped around this rumor conceals a financial time bomb powerful enough to detonate an entire championship foundation. Let us begin by establishing the absolute, unfiltered corporate reality of why this rumor even exists in the first place. Because to understand any trade, you must first understand the desperation sitting on the other side of the negotiating table. The Pittsburgh Steelers walked into this offseason carrying the dangerous energy of a team that tasted playoff football and decided to push every single chip to the center of the table simultaneously. In their aggressive pursuit of defensive supremacy, they went out and signed safety Jaquan Brisker and cornerback Jamal Dean. Two quality acquisitions that, on the surface, immediately fortified the back end of their defense and signaled genuine championship ambition. But the National Football League operates under a rigid, completely unforgiving hard salary cap. You cannot accumulate expensive defensive assets at every level of your secondary without triggering an immediate, mathematically brutal reckoning. By importing both Brisker and Dean into an already expensive roster, the Steelers have manufactured a heavily crowded, financially suffocating secondary. And sitting directly in the center of that traffic jam is Jalen Ramsey, carrying the dead weight of 4-year, $84.7 million contract and a $17.2 million salary for the upcoming season that has suddenly transformed from a manageable investment into a luxury the organization can no longer sustain. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not shopping Jalen Ramsey because they believe he is a diminished football player. They are desperately searching for a willing financial partner across the league because they are suffering from classic buyer's remorse, frantically trying to offload an expensive commitment before it suffocates the rest of their roster construction. Now we must pivot our tactical microscope away from the Steelers' spreadsheets and point it directly at the grass, because the most critical question in this entire equation is not about cap space or draft capital. It is about who exactly the 2026 version of Jalen Ramsey actually is as a football player. We all remember the Jacksonville version of Ramsey. We all carry the visceral memory of the Los Angeles Rams version of Ramsey, the absolute apex predator who could single-handedly erase the opposing offense's most dangerous weapon, a completely self-sufficient island cornerback operating with a level of physical arrogance and biomechanical fluidity that made him the most feared defensive back on the entire planet. But Father Time remains undefeated, and his record is perfect. The crucial tactical development buried inside this report is that Ramsey spent this past season with the Steelers transitioning between cornerback and safety responsibilities. Pause everything you are doing and comprehend precisely what that positional migration communicates about the biological reality of a professional defensive back's career arc. When an elite, historically dominant shutdown cornerback is repositioned into a hybrid safety role, it is not a creative schematic decision by a progressive coaching staff. It is a glaring, undeniable biological confession. It is an admission carved into the depth chart that the explosive fast-twitch muscle fibers, the elite recovery speed, and the supernatural lateral quickness required to survive man-to-man on the perimeter against the league's fastest 22-year-old wide receivers are beginning to permanently erode. Yes, Ramsey remains an extraordinarily intelligent, highly instinctive football player. Yes, he managed to record an interception, 8 passes defense, 3 sacks, and 88 tackles while playing all 17 games. Yes, those numbers earned him a Pro Bowl nod. But we must be brutally honest about what that Pro Bowl selection actually represents in the modern NFL recognition culture. It is a vote conducted heavily on legacy, on name recognition accumulated over years of dominance, not a pure, objective evaluation of the 2025 version of Jalen Ramsey, standing alone on his current merits. You are no longer acquiring a lockdown boundary cornerback who could be deployed in press man coverage against the league's elite receivers. You are acquiring a highly intelligent, physically imposing chess piece whose athletic prime is firmly planted in his rearview mirror and accelerating away. This brings us to the most psychologically sophisticated trap embedded in the entire architecture of this trade rumor, the Raheem Morris emotional variable. San Francisco recently installed Morris as their new defensive coordinator. And for anyone who does not fully appreciate the weight of that connection, Morris and Ramsey built something genuinely special together during their time in Los Angeles. They shared a defensive vision. They constructed game plans collaboratively. They climbed the mountain together and stood at the absolute summit of the sport holding a Lombardi trophy. Morris understands intuitively how to deploy Ramsey's specific skill set, how to leverage his elite football intelligence and zone coverage principles, how to unleash him as a sophisticated blitzer from the safety position, where his instincts remain devastatingly sharp even as his raw athleticism diminishes. This pre-existing relationship is the single most dangerous element of this entire trade conversation, and it must be identified and quarantined with absolute clarity before it infects the decision-making process in Santa Clara. Coaches are human beings. Human beings are psychologically wired toward the comfort of familiarity and the warm glow of past shared successes. Raheem Morris looks at his current secondary, recalls the championship glory of Los Angeles, and the temptation to pick up the phone and pressure John Lynch into acquiring his former defensive general becomes an almost irresistible gravitational force. But this is precisely the moment where elite cold-blooded front office architecture must construct an impenetrable firewall between emotional nostalgia and disciplined corporate governance. Familiarity breeds comfort, and in the ruthless mathematics of the NFL's salary cap, comfort pursued at the wrong financial price breeds championship-destroying catastrophe. We must now forcefully engage the emergency brake mechanism and audit the unforgiving financial guillotine suspended directly above this proposed transaction. The San Francisco 49ers are already stewarding one of the most expensive, most top-heavy rosters in the entire National Football League. The franchise carries massive, market-setting contractual commitments to Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and Deebo Samuel simultaneously. And hovering above every single financial conversation inside the Santa Clara offices is the imminent, unavoidable, seismic impact of the Brock Purdy contract extension, a financial event that will reshape every cap calculation the organization makes for the next half-decade. In this suffocating financial environment, every single dollar of available cap space is not just precious, it is existential. Every dollar allocated to one position is a dollar surgically removed from another. Absorbing $17.2 million for an aging defensive back who is transitioning away from his primary position is not a calculated risk. It is an act of financial recklessness that directly undermines the structural integrity of the depth chart across every other position group simultaneously. And trading premium draft capital on top of that cap commitment compounds the damage exponentially. If Lynch sends a second or third round pick to Pittsburgh to acquire Ramsey, he is simultaneously bleeding the franchise's future organizational lifeblood and inheriting a contract that will force painful, roster-destabilizing cuts to younger, faster, cheaper contributors who represent the organic foundation of the team's long-term competitiveness. However, the intricate, cutthroat world of NFL trade negotiations occasionally presents a specific scenario so precise, so aggressively structured in San Francisco's favor, that it transforms an otherwise toxic transaction into something approaching legitimate corporate wisdom. It requires John Lynch to completely invert the leverage dynamic and execute what we define as a pure salary dump operation, the most powerful negotiating position available to any front office in the modern cap era. If the Pittsburgh Steelers are genuinely desperate to clear their salary cap ledger, if the simultaneous presence of Brisker and Dean has rendered Ramsey a financially toxic, expendable asset on their books, then the San Francisco 49ers should not be positioned as the team offering compensation in this negotiation. Pittsburgh must pay San Francisco to absorb the contract. We have witnessed this exact maneuver executed with devastating brilliance before, most memorably when the Houston Texans attached a second-round pick to the catastrophic Brock Osweiler contract and convinced the Cleveland Browns to absorb it entirely. If the Steelers are willing to package Jalen Ramsey with a premium second or third round draft selection and present that bundle to San Francisco in exchange for a conditional seventh round pick, then and only then does the conversation deserve to be taken seriously inside the Santa Clara war room. In that singular, precisely constructed scenario, John Lynch is not trading for Jalen Ramsey, the football player. He is effectively purchasing a premium draft asset by deploying his available cap space as the acquisition currency and accepting Ramsey as the operational cost of executing the transaction. The front office could then immediately engage Ramsey and his representation to restructure the existing contract, converting substantial base salary into signing bonus money spread across future cap years, dramatically reducing the immediate annual hit and making the financial architecture sustainable within their current constraints. Deployed intelligently by Raheem Morris in a hybrid role tailored specifically to his current athletic profile, Ramsey could still contribute meaningful production as a veteran chess piece, while the restructured contract allows the roster to breathe. But anything short of Pittsburgh heavily subsidizing this transaction with genuine, premium draft capital makes this conversation an absolute, non-negotiable dead end for San Francisco. The 49ers are too strategically positioned, too close to the ultimate prize, and too financially pressured to begin absorbing the expensive mistakes of desperate franchises operating in panic mode. John Lynch did not construct one of the most sophisticated roster-building operations in the modern game by volunteering his franchise as a financial relief valve for teams that overspent in free agency. The verdict from our war room is delivered with complete, uncompromising clarity. Jalen Ramsey is a legend and icon, a guaranteed future Hall of Famer who redefined the cornerback position during his peak years and earned every superlative ever written about his game. But the National Football League does not pay for past performance. It pays for projected future production relative to current cost. And at $17 million annually for a transitioning safety operating past his athletic prime, the projected future production of the 2026 version of Jalen Ramsey does not align with the championship architecture that the San Francisco 49ers must maintain to fulfill the promise of this roster.